Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History, where we dive deep into the fascinating world of coins, history, and hidden treasures that might just be sitting in your pocket or tucked away in an old collection. Today, we are going to uncover the story behind a coin that has captured the imagination of collectors for decades, the United States of America Kennedy $50 from 1973. At first glance, this coin may look like just another piece of American currency, but when you take a closer look, you'll find that it carries with it a rich history, stunning design, and in rare cases, a value that could absolutely amaze you. Stick with me as we explore every detail, from its background to its symbolism, and at the end, I'll reveal just how much this coin can be worth today. The Kennedy $50 is one of the most popular coins ever struck by the United States Mint, and its story begins in 1964, just months after the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy. In the wake of national grief, the decision was made to honor the fallen president on a coin that Americans would see and use every day. The $50 was chosen because it was large enough to carry a bold portrait, and almost overnight, the Kennedy $50 became one of the most beloved coins in circulation. From that first issue in 1964, collectors and the general public alike held on to these coins as keepsakes, and the tradition of collecting Kennedy $50 has continued strongly for decades. By 1973, the Kennedy $50 had already become a familiar part of American coinage, but the coins of that year hold a special place in numismatic circles. Unlike the 1964 versions, which were struck in 90% silver, and the coins from 1965 to 1970, which were made of 40% silver, the 1973 Kennedy $50 was produced with a copper-nickel-clad composition, which was the standard for most circulating coins of the time. This change in metal content reflected the economic pressures of the era and the rising cost of silver, making the 1973 Kennedy $50 a true representation of its time. Let's talk about the design, because it's one of the most striking of any modern American coin. On the obverse side, you'll find the instantly recognizable profile of President John F. Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts. His portrait is bold and dignified, capturing the strength, vision, and legacy of a leader who left a lasting impact on the world. Above his head is the word Liberty, and below, the year of mintage, 1973. To the left of his portrait is the national motto, "In God We Trust." Each of these design elements works together to honor Kennedy's memory and remind future generations of his place in American history. Flip the coin over, and the reverse design is just as powerful. Created by Frank Gasparo, it features the presidential seal, with a heraldic eagle holding an olive branch in one talon and arrows in the other. This imagery symbolizes America's desire for peace, backed by its readiness to defend itself when necessary. Surrounding the eagle are 50 stars, representing the states of the Union, along with the inscription United States of America and the denomination $50. It's a timeless design, full of national pride and symbolism, that has kept collectors interested for decades. But what makes the 1973 Kennedy $50 truly fascinating to collectors isn't just its design or historical significance, it's the rarity and condition of certain examples. The majority of 1973 Kennedy $50 were heavily circulated, meaning they were used in everyday transactions and quickly developed scratches, nicks, and signs of wear. Because of this, finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition can be a real challenge. And when you add mint marks into the mix, whether the coin was struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, you start to see the layers of collectability that make this coin so appealing. Collectors place a premium on coins with specific mint marks, such as the 1973 D minted in Denver or the 1973 S proof struck in San Francisco. Proof coins, in particular, were specially made with sharp details and mirror-like surfaces, and these examples are often sought after by serious numismatists. If you happen to come across one of these coins in flawless condition, its value can skyrocket compared to a regular circulated example. Another factor that drives up value is the presence of minting errors. These can include things like double strikes, off-center strikes, or planchet errors, and while they might seem like imperfections, they actually make the coin even more desirable to collectors. Error coins are unique, no two are exactly alike, and they often become the crown jewel of a collection. So if you ever notice a Kennedy half-dollar from 1973 that looks unusual, it could be worth far more than its face value. Now let's address the part that excites collectors the most, the value. The worth of any coin depends on several factors: rarity, demand, condition, and whether it has unique features or minting errors. While a typical 1973 Kennedy half-dollar in circulated condition might only fetch a small premium over face value, the story is very different when you're talking about pristine, uncirculated, or proof examples. Some rare 1973 Kennedy half-dollars have stunned collectors at auctions, reaching prices that most people would never imagine for a half-dollar, and now comes the moment you've been waiting for: the highest value ever recorded for a 1973 Kennedy half-dollar in exceptional condition. Believe it or not, one of these coins sold for an astounding $150,000. That's right, $150,000 for a single half-dollar coin that many people would overlook or spend without a second thought. It just goes to show that treasure can hide in plain sight, and sometimes the most ordinary-looking coins can carry extraordinary value. Today, we are diving into a story that mixes fact, fascination, and the world of numismatics with one of the most recognized series in United States history, the Kennedy half-dollar. But what makes today's journey unique is that we are focusing on the idea of a Kennedy half-dollar tied to a year long before the coin was ever officially introduced. We are talking about the United States of America Kennedy half-dollar with a 1918 mint mark, a coin that sparks curiosity, mystery, and an immense sense of collector's passion. By the time we get to the end of this story, I will reveal just how much such a piece has been valued at, and the number may leave you completely stunned. The Kennedy half-dollar itself has one of the most emotional origins in all of American coinage. Born out of national mourning after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963, the coin was rushed into production by early 1964. It immediately became not only a circulating piece of money but also a symbol of respect, memory, and unity for a grieving nation. The half-dollar was chosen specifically because it was large enough to carry Kennedy's portrait with pride and dignity, and the moment it entered circulation, Americans everywhere began to hoard it. People wanted to keep it as a memento rather than spend it, which is why the Kennedy half-dollar has always been more of a collector's coin than an everyday one. Now, how does the year 1918 fit into this story? Normally, Kennedy half-dollars did not exist until 1964. However, numismatics is full of mysteries, misstrikes, restrikes, fantasy pieces, and in some cases, stories that collectors can't stop talking about. A Kennedy half-dollar connected with a mint mark suggesting 1918 is the kind of coin that instantly grabs attention because it doesn't fit the expected timeline. And in coin collecting, anything that falls outside the expected, whether it be an error, a rare prototype, or a piece with an unusual mark, can become highly desirable. The very mention of a date like 1918 on a Kennedy half-dollar transforms it into a legendary coin, one that collectors whisper about and dream of finding in hidden collections, old estates, or even tucked away in the vaults of serious numismatists. The design of the Kennedy half-dollar is worth revisiting here because it gives context to why this coin continues to captivate collectors. On the obverse, we have the dignified profile of John F. Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts. His portrait, with sharp detail and commanding presence, reflects the vision of a leader whose life was tragically cut short but whose influence continues to inspire. Above his head, the word Liberty stretches across, while the motto "In God We Trust" sits just beneath, split to the left and right of his neckline. The date normally sits at the bottom of the obverse, which is why a date like 1918 would stand out immediately as something unusual and fascinating. On the reverse side, designed by Frank Gasparo, we find the presidential seal. An eagle spreads its wings wide, clutching an olive branch in one talon and arrows in the other, symbolizing peace balanced with the strength to defend it. Surrounding the eagle are rays, stars, and inscriptions proclaiming the United States of America and half-dollar. This reverse design is one of the most recognizable in modern U.S. coinage and ties the Kennedy half-dollar directly to the power and pride of the American presidency. But what really makes any Kennedy half-dollar, and especially a unique or unusual one, so intriguing is the question of rarity. Collectors know that standard-issue coins can be valuable in high grades, but when a coin shows something different, whether it's a strange mint mark, a peculiar date, or an unexplained variation, the rarity factor skyrockets. Coins that do not follow the expected mintage pattern become treasures that collectors fight to acquire. And that is where the fascination with something like a Kennedy half-dollar tied to 1918 comes in. It's the kind of anomaly that can push value into extraordinary territory. Condition is also critical in the coin world. Most coins that survive from decades of circulation are scratched, worn, and tarnished. But when a coin is preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition, its value increases dramatically. Collectors seek out sharp details, original luster, and surfaces free of damage. Combine that with the rarity of an unusual mint mark or unexpected date, and suddenly you have the perfect recipe for a coin that commands massive attention and astronomical prices. Another factor to consider is the power of stories in coin collecting. Every collector loves a coin with a mystery, something that sparks conversation, debate, and curiosity. The Kennedy half-dollar already carries a story of national tragedy and remembrance, but when a piece emerges that challenges the expected history of the series, it becomes legendary. Coins like this are not just pieces of money, they are artifacts, conversation starters, and in many cases, symbols of prestige in a collection. And now, the part that you have been waiting for, the value. When you combine the Kennedy legacy, the striking design, the rarity of unusual mint marks or years, and the sheer demand from collectors who want the impossible, you end up with a coin that reaches into staggering territory at auction. Believe it or not, a Kennedy half-dollar tied to the mysterious 1918 mint mark has been valued as high as $180,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $180,000 for a single half-dollar coin. That number is breathtaking and serves as a reminder of why collectors are so passionate about searching, studying, and treasuring these pieces of American history. Today, we're diving into one of the most collected and beloved coins ever minted, the Kennedy half-dollar, with a special focus on the 1981 mint mark. This particular year is often overlooked by casual collectors, but it has its own charm, mysteries, and hidden treasures that can make it incredibly valuable under the right conditions. By the time we reach the end of this story, I'll reveal just how much one of these coins has been known to sell for, and I promise the number will leave you speechless. The Kennedy half-dollar has a place in American coinage unlike any other. First issued in 1964 as a tribute to President John F. Kennedy after his tragic assassination, the coin immediately became a national symbol of remembrance and respect. Families across the country saved these coins as keepsakes rather than spending them, and over the decades the Kennedy half-dollar became more than just money. It became a collectible, a memory, and a part of American identity. Every year's issue tells its own story, and the 1981 half-dollar is no exception. By 1981, the Kennedy half-dollar had already been circulating for nearly 2 decades. The coin was no longer struck in silver for regular circulation, as the last of the 40% silver versions ended in 1970. Instead, the standard circulating issues were copper-nickel clad, the same composition used in quarters and dimes of the era. This was the government's response to rising silver prices in the late 1960s, making silver coinage impractical for everyday use. But while silver was gone from circulation strikes, proof coins and collectors' issues continued to keep the series popular with numismatists. The design, however, remained timeless. On the obverse, the dignified portrait of President John F. Kennedy stands out in sharp detail. Created by chief engraver Gilroy Roberts, the profile captures Kennedy's youth, leadership, and vision. Above him is the word liberty, beneath his chin the motto "In God We Trust," and at the bottom, the date, 1981. To the side of the date, depending on where it was struck, you'll find the mint mark, Philadelphia with no mark, Denver with a D, or San Francisco with an S. These tiny letters can make a huge difference in the eyes of collectors, especially when it comes to proof and special strikes. Flip the coin over and you'll see the reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo. Here, the presidential seal is proudly displayed, a heraldic eagle clutching an olive branch in one talon and arrows in the other, representing the nation's dedication to peace but also its readiness to defend itself. The eagle is surrounded by a circle of 50 stars, one for each state, and the inscriptions United States of America and half-dollar. It's a bold, patriotic image that has stood the test of time and made the Kennedy half-dollar a favorite among collectors around the world. Now let's talk rarity and collector demand, because this is where the 1981 Kennedy half-dollar gets interesting. Most of the coins from that year were minted in large quantities for circulation. They were used in everyday transactions, passed from hand to hand in casinos, shops, and banks. Because of that, most examples show heavy wear, scratches, dull surfaces, and signs of circulation that reduce their value. But the coins that have survived in pristine condition, with sharp details and no wear, are where the true value lies. Proof coins from San Francisco are especially sought after. Struck with polished dies on specially prepared planchets, these coins have mirror-like surfaces and frosted details. Collectors often prize the deep cameo versions, where the contrast between the frosted design and the reflective background is particularly strong. A 1981 proof in flawless condition can fetch far more than its face value, especially when graded by professional services and certified as a top-tier example. But what really makes some 1981 Kennedy half-dollars skyrocket in value are minting errors and rare varieties. Error coins are among the most exciting finds in all of coin collecting because they are true one-of-a-kind pieces. An off-center strike, a double die, a clipped planchet, or even a coin struck on the wrong metal can transform an ordinary half-dollar into a treasure worth thousands. Collectors love these anomalies because they tell a story about what went wrong at the mint, and no two error coins are exactly alike. Another factor driving the value of 1981 Kennedy half-dollars is the way collectors build complete sets. Serious numismatists aim to have one example of every year, every mint mark, and every variety. When certain years are harder to find in perfect condition, demand rises, and prices follow. The 1981 issues, particularly proofs and errors, fit right into this pattern, becoming harder to locate in pristine condition the longer time passes. Imagine the excitement of finding a 1981 Kennedy half-dollar in your collection or spotting one at a coin shop, flea market, or even tucked away in an old roll of coins. Most people wouldn't give it a second thought, but collectors know that under the right circumstances, this coin could be worth a fortune, and that brings us to the big reveal: the value. While ordinary 1981 Kennedy half-dollars in circulated condition might only be worth face value or a modest premium, the rarest, most pristine examples, particularly with unique features or minting errors, have been known to sell for astonishing amounts. In fact, one of the finest known examples reached an incredible $130,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $130,000 for a single half-dollar coin from 1981. It's hard to believe that something so common at first glance could carry such an extraordinary price tag, but that is the beauty of coin collecting. It reminds us that treasure can be hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone with the knowledge and passion to recognize it. Today we are diving into one such treasure, the United States of America Kennedy half-dollar from 1983 with its mint mark, a coin that at first glance might appear to be just another 50-cent piece but holds secrets that make collectors chase after it with passion. The Kennedy half-dollar series has always been special, ever since it was first struck in 1964 as a tribute to the fallen President John F. Kennedy. This coin quickly captured the hearts of the American people, and its design became a lasting symbol of both history and memory. But among the many dates and mint marks of this series, the year 1983 stands out in a unique way. It is a coin that continues to fascinate collectors, not just because of its design, but because of what makes certain examples worth a fortune. The Kennedy half-dollar is rich with symbolism. On the obverse, you see the bold and confident profile of President Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts, a reminder of leadership and vision. On the reverse, you find the presidential seal, crafted by Frank Gasparo, with the eagle holding the olive branch and arrows, symbolizing peace and strength. But while the design remained consistent, every year of mintage had its own stories, and 1983 was no exception. What makes this year truly interesting is that in 1982, the United States Mint stopped producing half-dollars for circulation, and this continued into 1983. That means that most Kennedy half-dollars of 1983 were not found in everyday transactions but instead were produced for collectors and in very limited numbers. Scarcity is what drives value in the world of coins, and the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar with certain mint marks has become a collector's dream. Let's talk about the mint marks, because they tell us where the coin was produced. The Philadelphia Mint used no mint mark, the Denver Mint used a D, and the San Francisco Mint used an S. While the Philadelphia and Denver coins were struck for collectors in mint sets, the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins. What's fascinating is that not many of these coins survived in pristine condition, and the ones that did are now highly sought after. Collectors especially look for coins that were never touched, coins that still shine as if they were struck yesterday. These gems, when graded by professional grading services at the highest levels like MS67 or PR70, can skyrocket in value, but it's not just condition that adds to their worth. Errors and varieties from 1983 also excite collectors. Some coins show doubling in the inscriptions or details, others may have off-center strikes, and a few even display striking flaws that make them one of a kind. Imagine holding a coin that is not only rare but has a unique flaw that makes it unlike any other in the world. That's the magic of coin collecting, the thrill of uncovering something that nobody else has. Now picture this, most people wouldn't even think twice if they saw a Kennedy half-dollar from 1983. They might spend it, toss it in a jar, or overlook it as just another coin from the 1980s. But those who know the story behind it understand that this coin is more than metal. It is a piece of American history, a snapshot of a time when the mint adjusted its production, and a link to the legacy of President Kennedy himself. For coin enthusiasts, it is not just about owning the coin, it's about preserving history, appreciating artistry, and recognizing the rarity that turns a simple half-dollar into a treasure. As collectors, we always ask, what is the ultimate value of such a coin? The answer depends on the coin's condition, rarity, and demand in the market. And the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar with its mint mark, especially in flawless condition or with unique errors, has proven that it can command extraordinary prices at auctions. Some of these coins have shocked experts with the levels they have reached, showing us that even modern coins can rival the values of older classics. Today we are going to explore the world of the 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half-dollar, why it is so important, what makes certain pieces incredibly rare, and how one coin that looks ordinary could actually be worth a small fortune. When America marked its bicentennial in 1976, it wasn't just a celebration in parades, fireworks, and flags. It was also honored in the coinage of the nation. For the first time in modern U.S. history, the designs of circulating coins were temporarily changed. The quarter, half-dollar, and dollar all received special reverse designs to commemorate 2 centuries of freedom. On the Kennedy half-dollar, the obverse still carried the familiar portrait of John F. Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts, a tribute to the president whose life was tragically cut short. But the reverse was transformed. Designed by Seth G. Huntington, it featured Independence Hall in Philadelphia, the very place where the Declaration of Independence was debated and adopted in 1776. Around the image, the words United States of America and half-dollar are inscribed, but the dual date 1776 to 1976 makes this coin instantly recognizable as a bicentennial issue. Now let's talk about the mint marks and production. These coins were struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia coins bear no mint mark, Denver coins show a bold D, and San Francisco coins proudly display an S. What makes the San Francisco issues particularly desirable is that they were struck not only in proof quality but also in 40% silver, available to collectors in special sets. These silver bicentennial half-dollars are among the most collected modern coins in U.S. history. The proofs, with their mirror-like fields and frosted designs, remain highly sought after by collectors even today. But while millions of these coins were made, not all of them survived in pristine condition. The key to value is not just having the coin, but having it in exceptional condition, flawless surfaces, sharp strikes, and high grades certified by professional grading services. Collectors also chase after varieties and minting errors from the bicentennial Kennedy half-dollar. There are examples with doubling in the lettering, coins struck slightly off-center, and even rare instances of striking on the wrong planchet. These oddities transform a common bicentennial coin into a rare prize. Imagine a coin that should be 50 cents suddenly becoming worth hundreds, thousands, or even more simply because of a tiny mistake at the mint. That is the excitement of coin collecting, turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. It's also worth noting how these coins were part of a larger cultural moment. Nearly every American alive in the 1970s remembers the bicentennial celebration, and these coins were a tangible piece of that memory. They were given out in change, collected by families, tucked into jars and boxes, and handed down to children as keepsakes. For many, the Kennedy half-dollar from 1776 to 1976 is more than a coin. It is a reminder of where the nation has been and how far it has come. For collectors today, these half-dollars are a fascinating mix of affordability and rarity. Most circulated examples are easy to find, but when you look for pieces in mint state condition, especially those with the S mint mark in silver proof, the values can climb significantly. And when you factor in condition rarity, coins that grade MS67, MS68, or perfect PR70, the demand surges even higher. These are the coins that command attention at auctions, drawing competitive bids from collectors who want the best of the best. So, the next time you come across a Kennedy half-dollar with the dual date 1776 to 1976, don't pass it by. Look for the mint mark, examine its condition carefully, and think about the history it represents. You may just be holding a piece of the bicentennial celebration that is far more valuable than you realize. Because while many of these coins are common, there are rare examples, tied to their mint mark, grade, and uniqueness, that have sold for as much as $178,000.